Over to Manchester City. They have now launched another new legal challenge against the APT rules. What have you made of that, and what makes this one different from the ones we've been talking about? And obviously, we know it's different from the 115 charges.
Yeah, look, we're calling it APT2 now is probably the way to try and get the terminology right. It's look for those listeners who have not fallen asleep about the whole legal travails in everything right now. This is about a challenge to the regulations that the Premier League made some adjustments to after APT 1. And now Man City are saying those adjustments themselves are not legal. They did warn the clubs and the Premier League that they would come back and say that, and they have done it. But it does seem as though it's almost like reserving a legal position rather than any real intent, I think, to go forward. Once there's some separate rulings on the APT1, that could render APT2 null and void. So it's one of those legal positions that is going to have to be fulfilled. So we're going to have to sit back and watch this one. Of course, the big game in town is still the 115. This APT2 challenge, though, could affect clubs like Arsenal and Everton in theory, because it's asking for retrospective punishment if they breached the fair market value of owner loans. Look, it's a lot for everybody to follow. I am following the technical detail, but still, it amazed me that City are still doing it. It's just a bad look as far as I'm concerned, and hopefully we can get all this legal stuff behind us once the 115 is finished.
And do you expect them to be successful in this challenge against the APT rules on a second or third try that this might be?
I think they had a fair point in terms of the APT that fair market value should be applied to owners' loans. I think that was a fair point, and I think it is fair to lump it in with overpaying, sponsorships, which is what City were basically accused of. So I think that is a correct way to challenge it. Do I think it will be successful? I doubt it, to be honest. I think there are mitigating circumstances for all those clubs because they all operated under the rules that were in place at the time. So I think it's very hard to go back retrospectively and punish people for things. So I think when it comes to it, I don't think well, they may be successful in the point and getting the rules sort of varied again. I don't think there'll be any further punishment for other clubs. But as I say, it's the sooner we get the handbook running the game rather than individual lawyers challenging every rule, the better.
And Pep Guardiola has revealed that Man City are expected to hear the verdict on the 115 charges in the next month or so. Does that seem right to you?
I think we're going to be Easter or just beyond Easter. I think what was interesting was actually Pep's been talking a couple of times about this whole case now. Before he'd been completely silent. And I just wondered why he's actually saying anything at all. I'm not really looking at the content of what he's saying. I'm just wondering why the manager is now passing comment on this. And I don't know whether it's City going on the front foot. I'm really trying to read the hidden signs, and I can't quite decipher what that really means. But City remain very bullish on their stance, maintaining there'll be no problems. The Premier League remain bullish, so we're all still waiting for that day when the statement's handed down. It'll be big news, and we'll all be poring over that judgment. But so far, it's still a standoff.
And Man City fans wrote a letter to Khaldoon Al Mubarak complaining about ticket price rises. Could the club freeze prices, and why does a club as rich as Manchester City need to continue to rise ticket prices?
Well, you're absolutely right. I mean, that's the one question. City are not in any sort of financial dilemma. They've got money in the bank, wealthy owners. They're making a profit. They're doing really well in Champions League until this season. But then again, we'll know more tonight as to how they get on against Real Madrid. But yes, I think it's wrong the way that they're handling the ticket issues. Obviously, each department is under pressure to perform. But I think like Man United, I think Man City fans are also saying, look, we've had enough. And there is no reason to this because it's really just marginal money when it comes to it in terms of the bigger picture. And I think fans have to be treated better. And if City are trying to probably increase the size of the Etihad in some way and increase the capacity, they've got to be able to attract the fans in. And whether it is that they're going to try and increase the prices just to offer special deals to make them seem more attractive, But regardless, they've got to be seen, and I would think City want to be seen as a fair-minded club when it comes to supporters, and they've got a chance to lead the way and take away some of the damage that's been done to their reputation from 115 charges.
And do you think, as Man City's owners, you may want to be a little careful with how you treat the fans, considering there is still a chance that they're not going to be playing in the Premier League next year with a potential relegation looming, depending on these 115 charges?
That's exactly my point. I mean, look, City fans are known to be incredibly loyal, but it's also a fact that they have not always been able to fill that stadium. And so they've got to be careful with that fan base. And if they want to grow it, they've got to make it attractive. And I just don't see the point in alienating any of the fan base at all for such a small marginal gain.